Good to have you with us. You know, I have to admit, there's sometimes I get so wrapped up and so into those social media posts that I read that I convince myself the world and people are so far polarized, so far apart that there's no middle ground. Well, here's a reality check. It turns out that most Canadians actually are willing to find a middle ground on a whole range of issues. And it's thanks to the release of the first annual Canadian Social Harmony Index. It's a research project. And joining me from Calgary is Joni Avram. She's originally from Indian Head, Saskatchewan, I thought I'd point out, and she's president of Cause and Effect Marketing, one of the two agencies that put this study together. Hi, Joni.
Good morning, Costa.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Great. I'm curious about this research study. It's so hopeful, actually, but tell me about what the conclusion is here.
Right. So the first thing that inspired this research was noticing that, just as you said, there's a lot of division in especially on social platforms, and we can falsely assume that we're more divided than we think, and so than is actually the case. And so what happens in those cases is that we end up with a lack of trust in one another. We also tune out and we disengage. So rather than engaging with these big problems and working together to solve common problems and find common ground and fight for the common good, we end up fighting just with each other, and we don't actually progress problems, and the state of the world doesn't get better. And so the reason behind the research was to understand whether or not that these numbers or this perception of great division is actually real. And we went out and asked three basic questions, just around how willing people are to find their own, to seek their own common understanding of others, even if they have different beliefs. We asked that specific question, and 73% agreed that they would prefer to seek common understanding rather than to kind of stick to their own thinking. The people with their own thinking. 64% said that like-minded people like them should be willing to listen to others and compromise, and then 82% said our differences are not so large that we can't find common ground. And as you said, this is quite encouraging data.
Well, I'm just wondering how you feel about this, given the so-called polarized climate that we seem to be living in. What went through your mind when you saw these seemingly positive results come in?
Well, I'm a social marketer, so I do a lot of work in social marketing space. How do we engage the public in positive, changing attitudes, changing behavior, et cetera? And one of the things that we know about creating effective social change is that social trust and social cohesion is really important. So from a perspective of my professional perspective, it's been a super positive response, and my reaction has been extremely encouraged. The other thing that was really fascinating about these results is that they were quite consistent across regions. So we didn't find a big difference between people in the West versus the East, for instance. And again, that really surprised us because we were expecting, especially being from Western Canada, you kind of expect that there's going to be this division and different perspectives, but we didn't find that to be the case. And the reason I believe that is because we were really coming at this from the perspective of deeper seated human values. What do we really find important? When you get down to that level with people, you can find that you actually have more in common than you might think.
But there are divisive issues in this country, for example, and they break down by regions. For example, how people perhaps in Quebec view the oil and gas industry a lot different than the other way around, and you get these deep divisions on specific issues. So how do you find a common ground when people are divided on specific issues?
So that was so you don't necessarily focus on the issues themselves. You focus on the underlying values that are underneath the issues. And so, for instance, we asked people we did do a survey of issues related to that have been sort of the core values that people influence how Canadians think, feel, and act. And we asked very specific questions around caring for others, et cetera, independence, social stability, and self-enhancement. And we found that 78% of Canadians valued caring for others within their local communities or the larger world. 58% valued independence, which includes things like freedom and curiosity, and 55% valued social stability and social harmony. So when you start to frame messages within this context of values and our common values, that we all are caring people, we all care about one another, and we want to collaborate with one another, then you can come at the problems, the specific issues, in a more collaborative, constructive way.
Collaborative. Are you crazy? Come on. That can never happen. I'm just being facetious here. But it really is, as we look to 2021 in this very upsetting year that we've had, really, this is so encouraging, Joni. It's really nice to see. So what do you do with this now that we have these solid numbers here? What do we do with them? What difference can this make, in other words, for people, for Canadians?
So one of the things that we're really trying to do is publicize this information. I talk about, where social scientists talk about the value of publicizing our virtues rather than our vices. Because when we know, we understand that people are good people who want to get better, we have a much different reaction to them. Our social trust grows, and our willingness to kind of come to the center and think the best of people is enhanced. So that's one thing, publicizing this and really spreading the word. And then the second thing we're doing, we want to do this on an annual basis and try to track if there's improvements overall in terms of social harmony. And then the third thing that we're doing is offering some training on this subject for people who are engaged in the journalism, in education, communications, that world. We're holding a workshop on this study in January, and you can go to causeeffect.ca/lift to sign up for that.
Sounds great. I don't know if I'm going to be reading much in my Twitter feed if everyone's going to be consulting with each other and being collaborative and nice. Maybe that'll be a refreshing change. That's something to look forward to for next year, don't you think?
Well, I do. And actually that whole idea of good news as a people are interested in it. I think that there are some websites that have increased their subscription rates by an astonishing number because they're focused on good news. And so it is something that people are looking for today, because it actually, when we see good news and we hear good things about one another, it has an energizing effect on us as humans. It creates a capacity for us to think more creatively and more broadly, and actually gives us the capacity to entertain new ideas. And so there's a lot of reasons why we should be coming at these conversations from a positive point of view.
And that's why we have you on this show. We really appreciate it, Joni. Thank you so much. And next time you're through Regina on your way to Indian Head, make sure you drop by and say hello.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Costa.
Thank you. Bye-bye.